Rocker Marilyn Manson, whose real name is Brian Warner, released the song The Beautiful People in 1995. The song made him a household name, landing him the grand finale performance at the 1997 MTV Video Music Awards. The first lyrics of The Beautiful People reference domination and violence. Now, actress Evan Rachel Wood is claiming violence was part of her relationship with Manson. The actress taking to Instagram to expose who she says is a dangerous man, saying that he manipulated her into submission, horrifically abusing her for years. The star of HBO's Westworld previously spoke out about being a sexual assault and domestic violence survivor, but never identified the person or persons responsible.
Did you ever stop to wonder about the price you'd have to pay if there was a reckoning? That reckoning is here.
In February of 2018, Wood told the House Judiciary Committee about her experiences with rape, domestic violence, and PTSD as part of her push for the landmark Sexual Assault Survivors' Rights Act.
My experience with domestic violence was this: toxic mental, physical, and sexual abuse, which started slow but escalated over time, including threats against my life, severe gaslighting and brainwashing, waking up to the man that claimed to love me raping what he believed to be my unconscious body.
In May of 2019, Wood also testified before the California Senate, advocating for the Phoenix Act, which extended the statute of limitations in domestic violence cases.
Sometimes he would not allow me to sleep until I participated in acts of fear, pain, torture, and humiliation, which I felt powerless to stop.
After Wood's public accusation, the goth icon publicly responded on Instagram with an adamant denial, saying, quote, "Obviously, my art and my life have long been magnets for controversy, but these recent claims about me are horrible distortions of reality. My intimate relationships have always been entirely consensual with like-minded partners, regardless of how and why others are now choosing to misrepresent the past. That is the truth," end quote. 4 other women also took to Instagram, making claims that Manson abused them as well. Manson's former fiancée, actress Rose McGowan, showed her support on Twitter for the alleged victims. While Manson has not been criminally or civilly accused of any wrongdoing, his record label Loma Vista dropped him, and Starz is removing him from his remaining episode of American Gods.
And joining me now, Court TV anchor Julie Grant. Julie, serious allegations here and naming Marilyn Manson at this point. But the Senator Susan Rubio, Democrat from California, has asked the FBI director to open up a case here with the Department of Justice to look into all this. What's going on there?
You're exactly right, Vinny. Yes, Senator Rubio penned that letter to Christopher Wray himself, the director of the FBI, asking for a federal investigation to commence to look into what she says are allegations happening from individuals who live in California. And so on behalf of her constituents, she wrote this letter, and it says in part, and I'm quoting here directly, "Since some of the alleged cases against Mr. Warner are from California, I am especially alarmed. Individuals who engage in this kind of abuse are often serial offenders. If these allegations are true and no investigation is undertaken, we will be failing the victims and allowing a possible perpetrator to continue abusing unsuspecting victims. That must not be allowed to happen," end quote. And Vinny, one thing I want to point out, you certainly know this, and I think it's important to remember this, although this is a call, and certainly it's excellent that this senator wants to advocate on behalf of alleged victims. We have to remember that whether a federal investigation is proper is a whole nother question, because typically when you think about it, we usually see local state investigations happen with domestic violence situations. That's something that local police typically handle, and that's typically how things are codified in the states, which are sovereign. Certain things have to happen in order to trigger a federal domestic violence charge. For example, if someone in an abusive relationship, let's say, is federally prohibited from having a firearm, that might trigger a federal charge. If they have a victim travel through interstate, lines with the intent to harm them, harass them, hurt them, and there's a crossing of state lines, that could mean federal charges. But just to call on the federal government, at this point, we don't know the particulars that would dictate whether or not it's proper. And really, Vinny, even more is unknown about the other women who are coming forward making varying allegations of abuse against Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, what do we know about those 4 other accusers?
Not a lot, Vinny. So there were posts put to Instagram, very heartfelt posts, but they lack a lot of specificity. And so we really don't know much in terms of windows of time, in terms of locations. I pulled out one that I want you to look up because here there is a date mentioned, October of 2015. This is from an accuser. Her name is Gabriella. And at the very end of the post is what I want you to pay attention to. This is where she alleges the violence. She says, the second time we met, he broke a wine glass in the hotel room and demanded we make a blood pact together. He cut both of our hands with the broken glass. So that's just one example of something these other accusers are putting out there. And if we don't know specificity, we really couldn't say whether or not the statute of limitations may still allow for a viable prosecution if investigators find one is warranted. But I do want to mention something else. There's also been some talk about a report made, and we don't know the identity of the accuser, but it was a report made to the Los Angeles County Police Department back in 2018. This was made, the case stemming from 2011, and this victim is said to be an acquaintance of Manson's. And the police, the DA's office, are declining to prosecute. They said that 2 of the allegations, assault and battery allegations, were beyond the statute. And the other charge, they said, could not be filed due to absence of corroboration. And I looked up that charge. The code they cited is rape while unconscious. So this potentially could still be filed. And again, we don't know who it's pertaining to. We don't know if it's any of these women who have come forward recently, but we just know that allegation was out there and it was not found to be substantiated at the time by officials, Vinny.
And we know Marilyn Manson is denying these allegations. And in the past, one of his bandmates was accused, and he talked about having a zero tolerance for this.
You're right, Vinny. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think this is important, too, to bring up because in 2017, Marilyn Manson kicked out his guitarist and his bassist. His name is Twiggy Ramirez, and he had been with them for a very long time. As a matter of fact, he co-wrote the song you heard in the report, The Beautiful People. And there was an allegation, again, I'm stressing only an allegation made, but an allegation by another musician, a female musician, who did not belong to Marilyn Manson's band, but she made an allegation of rape against Twiggy Ramirez, saying it happened approximately 20 years before that time. And this was in 2017. And Marilyn Manson made it public that he needed to part ways with Twiggy just based on that accusation alone, Vinny. So as you mentioned, showing a zero tolerance policy when it came to someone that he was very closely, professionally and personally linked with.
All right, we'll continue to follow this and see if it leads to any charges under any jurisdiction. Julie Grant, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinny.